My ex-wife is taking me to court for stalking her through 3 states. I've spent the last 8 months on house arrest with an ankle monitor. The day the lawsuit papers landed in my hand, I actually laughed. A real, gut-wrenching laugh, right there in my doorway. Not because anything was funny, far from it. It was a laugh born of sheer, terrifying disbelief. My brain just couldn't compute the absolute, mind-bending audacity of what I was reading. My ex-wife, Vanessa Hartwell, was suing me for a staggering $340,000. Her claim that I'd systematically stalked her across 3 states, Ohio, Pennsylvania, and New York, for the past 6 months. She alleged I'd followed her to work, popped up at her gym, even shown up at restaurants where she was eating. The lawsuit talked about me photographing her through windows, sending threatening messages from burner phones, and even violating a restraining order I didn't even know existed. It was all laid out. 14 documented incidents with dates, times, locations, and witness statements from 6 people who supposedly saw me. Each word I read felt like a punch to the gut. The rage, the confusion, it was overwhelming. But here's the kicker. The reason my hands were shaking, the reason that insane laugh escaped me, was because of the cold, hard, black plastic device wrapped tightly around my right ankle. The GPS monitoring bracelet. I'd been wearing it for 243 straight days, almost 8 months. It tracked my location every 60 seconds. If I moved more than 150 feet from my apartment, an alert went straight to my probation officer. I hadn't left my home in 8 months, except for 3 pre-approved medical appointments, all within a 5-mile radius, all documented with permits and escorts. I couldn't have stalked Vanessa across 3 states. I couldn't have stalked her across 3 streets. The system would have screamed. Law enforcement would have been at my door. I would have been dragged back to county jail to finish my sentence. But according to these papers, I was in Cleveland on March 18th, Pittsburgh on April 3rd, Rochester on May 11th. Multiple locations, multiple states, multiple impossibilities. My existence had been reduced to a 150-foot tether since my release from county jail. I was serving the final year of a 2-year sentence for felony tax evasion, a legitimate conviction. I won't lie. I'd made catastrophic mistakes, messed up my business, tried to hide assets. I'd pleaded guilty, done my 4 months inside, and earned house arrest for the rest. Officer Rita Blackwell, my probation officer, a woman with steel gray hair and the no-nonsense demeanor of someone who'd seen it all, had clamped that ankle monitor on me at 6:17 a.m. on September 3rd. Her rules were crystal clear. Stay in the apartment, remote work only, pre-approved visitors, and absolutely no leaving without 72 hours notice. Any violation, immediate arrest. Back to jail. I'd lost my business, my house, my marriage, most of my friends. I wasn't about to lose my freedom by doing something stupid. So, I'd been compliant. Perfectly compliant. My daily routine was mechanical. 6:30 a.m., coffee, remote work for a software firm, delivery apps for food, exercise in my tiny living room, Sunday video calls with my sister. It was lonely, monotonous, but it was manageable. I just had 14 months left until I could truly start rebuilding my life. Vanessa and I had divorced 18 months earlier, finalized just before I pleaded guilty. It was brutal, but straightforward. No kids, split assets. She kept the car, her retirement. I kept the business debts and legal mess. She was angry, absolutely, about the financial ruin. She accused me of prioritizing my business over her, of being selfish and reckless. And looking back, she probably wasn't wrong on all counts. But she never once called me threatening, never violent. Our split was bitter, yes, but it was clean, final, a no-contact order, at her request, and we both moved on. Then, 3 weeks before the lawsuit, the first strange detail arrived. A registered letter from an attorney I didn't recognize. It sat in my mailbox for 2 days. I opened it, expecting more bills or tax-related notices. Instead, it was a cease and desist letter from Vanessa's attorney, Marcus Ashford. It demanded I stop all contact, stop following her, stop appearing at her frequented locations. It warned of legal action. I read it 3 times, confused, my heart starting to pound. I immediately forwarded it to Nathan Greenberg, my lawyer for the tax case. Nathan called me within the hour. His voice had that specific, controlled tone attorneys use when they're delivering bad news but trying to sound professional. Mason, talk to me. Have you had any contact with Vanessa since the divorce? I was sitting at my kitchen table, the ankle monitor's blinking green light, a silent reminder of my captivity. Nathan, I've been under house arrest for 7 months. I haven't had contact with anyone except my probation officer, delivery drivers, and you. How could I have contacted Vanessa? I don't even know where she lives now. He paused. Her attorney claims you've been following her, appearing at her workplace, sending messages from unknown numbers, showing up at her gym and restaurants. They have dates and specific incidents. He told me he'd already dismissed it as impossible, citing my monitoring status. But he says they have witnesses and photographic evidence. Mason, this is serious. If they file a formal complaint, law enforcement will investigate. Your probation could be revoked, even if the charges don't stick. The appearance of a violation can be enough. My stomach tightened into a knot. Photographic evidence. How could there be photos of me anywhere but this apartment? My GPS data documented every single movement for 7 months. It was physically impossible. By the way, if you're still with me and this wild ride of a story, please hit that subscribe button. More unbelievable narratives are coming your way, and you won't want to miss them. I did exactly what Nathan asked. I pulled my detailed GPS logs, cross-referencing them with the dates in the cease and desist. Every alleged incident of stalking, the data showed me right here, in my apartment, never moving more than that 150-foot boundary. 2 weeks later, the full lawsuit arrived. I called Nathan, my voice shaking uncontrollably. Nathan, she's suing me. $340,000. 14 incidents. 3 states. I scanned every page, emailed it, then sat on my couch, staring at my ankle monitor as if it were a ticking bomb. It was just a simple, unobtrusive black band, waterproof, tamper-resistant. It felt like a part of my body now, a constant reminder of my restricted freedom. But now, it was my only shield against financial ruin and a return to prison. Nathan called back. Mason, this is bad. They're claiming documented stalking incidents in Cleveland, Pittsburgh, and Rochester. Photographs, witness, testimony, detailed descriptions. But you're right. The GPS data should exonerate you completely. He promised to file a response denying everything, requesting dismissal based on impossibility. But the photos, how could there be photos? He admitted he hadn't seen them yet, but he needed to ask, is there any possibility the monitoring system malfunctioned? Anytime it showed offline, I immediately checked my logs. No, every single day. Continuous monitoring. No gaps. No signal loss. Perfect. But the situation only got worse. The photographs arrived. Nathan called, his voice strained. Mason, I'm looking at about 30 photographs, taken over 6 months. They show a man who looks very much like you, outside her office in Cleveland, at a restaurant in Pittsburgh, a shopping mall in Rochester. He described my build, my hair, similar clothes. I can see why she might think it was you, but we know it can't be. He sent the files. My hands went cold as I opened them on my laptop. They were blurry, taken from a distance with phone cameras. But Nathan was right. The man in them looked like me. Same height, lean build, dark brown hair, jeans, and a plain shirt. One showed him across from an office building, peering in. Another, through a restaurant window, watching. Another, behind Vanessa in a mall, face turned away but posture watchful. I stared at them for 20 minutes, zooming in. Reality started to feel like quicksand. This man wasn't identical, but close enough. Close enough that someone who'd been married to me for 6 years could genuinely believe it was me. But it wasn't. I knew it wasn't. I hadn't been there. The GPS data proved it. Yet doubt crept in. Had I somehow been in those places without remembering? Was I losing time? Dissociative episodes? The thoughts were irrational, terrifying, but the photos made them feel possible. Then I'd look down at that black band on my ankle, and the impossibility would return. Nathan filed a motion to dismiss, attaching my GPS records. He argued frivolousness, impossibility. Vanessa's attorney, Marcus Ashford, fought back. He claimed the GPS data was falsified, manipulated, that electronic systems malfunctioned. He said the photos and witnesses trumped electronic records. The judge, Honorable Diane Thornton, scheduled a hearing. Officer Rita Blackwell, bless her, provided a detailed affidavit. She confirmed my 243 days of perfect compliance, the continuous function of my device, no violations, documented medical appointments. She included technical documentation from Sentinel Location Services, the monitoring company, signal logs, GPS coordinates, battery status, tamper detection, ironclad proof. But then, Marcus Ashford's follow-up filing dropped a bomb. Vanessa would testify that I'd been sending her threatening text messages from unknown numbers, pictures, referencing specific, intimate details about her daily routine. Messages that started 4 months ago, escalating. Nathan requested copies. When they arrived, my blood ran cold. Burner phones. Unregistered. The content was disturbing. I saw you at the coffee shop on Maple Street this morning. You looked good in that blue dress. Your new boyfriend doesn't deserve you. You should be more careful about who you trust. I'll always be watching. You can't escape what we had. Moving to a new apartment won't help. I know where you live now. Dozens of them, escalating in frequency, in specificity. They referenced her clothes, her locations, her new relationship. Someone was watching her closely, and someone looked like me. But it wasn't me. It couldn't be. Nathan brought in Carol Zimmerman, a former FBI cybercrime investigator. She analyzed the texts, the burner numbers, the patterns. The messages were sent during times when your GPS data shows you were at your apartment. Every single one, Carol explained during our video call. If you sent them, you did it from your residence. We'll subpoena tower records, and I'm betting they didn't come from towers near your apartment. 4 days before the hearing, Rita Blackwell called me directly. Her voice had an edge I'd never heard. Mason, I need you to be completely honest. Has anyone else had access to your apartment? Could someone have used your computer or phone to send messages? I was working on a coding project. No, Rita. Delivery drivers. My sister once, but I was with her. Nobody. She paused. What about someone creating a fake monitoring signal? Someone sophisticated enough to generate GPS data showing you at home while you were somewhere else. My chest tightened. Was that even possible? I thought these systems were tamper-proof. They're designed to be, she said. But nothing is absolutely impossible. It would require significant expertise. I'm not saying that's what happened, but someone is going to extreme lengths to make it look like you're stalking your ex-wife in a way that directly contradicts your monitoring data. That suggests either sophisticated fraud or something I'm not seeing. Carol Zimmerman conducted a comprehensive audit of my equipment. 4 hours. Her report was definitive. My ankle monitor was functioning perfectly. No tampering, no manipulation. My apartment had no spoofing devices. The records were genuine. The hearing before Judge Thornton was via video. I sat in my apartment, my ankle monitor clearly visible. Nathan in his office. Marcus Ashford and Vanessa in the courtroom. The judge was methodical. Mr. Ashford, your client claims the defendant stalked her across 3 states while under continuous GPS monitoring, which shows he never left his residence. How do you reconcile this? Ashford, smooth and confident, spun his narrative. Your Honor, electronic monitoring systems are fallible. They can be manipulated by individuals with technical expertise, which the defendant possesses. The photographic evidence and witness testimony provide direct proof. He suggested I'd either compromised my device or used an accomplice. The coincidence of someone who looks exactly like him appearing where his ex-wife happens to be, it strains credulity. The simplest explanation is he's stalking her and covering his tracks through technical manipulation. Nathan was ready. Your Honor, forensic analysis by an FBI cybercrime expert confirms no tampering. Cell tower data for the burner phones shows they originated far from my client's residence. This isn't stalking by my client. This is someone impersonating him, deliberately framing him. The judge looked at Nathan. Mr. Greenberg, the photographs do show a strong resemblance. Any explanation? Nathan nodded. Someone is deliberately impersonating Mr. Sterling, making himself visible enough to be photographed, creating the appearance of stalking. This could be someone Miss Hartwell knows who wants to harm Mr. Sterling, or a stranger with an obsession. Regardless, the GPS data proves it isn't my client. Then she looked directly into the camera, at me. Mr. Sterling, do you have any idea who might want to frame you? I'd been silent, feeling my life dissected. Your Honor, I don't know. My ex-wife and I had a difficult divorce, but I've had no contact. I've been living quietly. I can't imagine who would go to this much trouble, but I can tell you with absolute certainty, I haven't been to Cleveland, Pittsburgh, or Rochester. I haven't left my apartment except for those medical appointments, and I haven't sent any threatening messages to anyone. The judge reserved judgment, ordered more discovery. 30 days. I sat there, staring at the blank screen, feeling like I'd lost, even with ironclad evidence. Nathan called 15 minutes later. That went better than it could have. The judge is skeptical, but we need to figure out who's doing this. Someone is going to a lot of trouble and expense to frame you. That suggests strong motivation. He told me to make a list. Anyone with a grudge against me or Vanessa. My former business partners? They'd already sued me. Vanessa's family? Extreme. Her friends? No. I racked my brain. Then, I remembered. Vanessa had mentioned a new boyfriend, Kevin, who'd been supportive during the stalking incidents. I'd assumed he was just a new partner. But what if he was more? Nathan's team ran a background check on Kevin Price, age 34, freelance photographer and videographer. My eyebrows shot up. Photographer. He'd been dating Vanessa for about 9 months, according to social media, which perfectly overlapped with when the alleged stalking began. He'd previously lived in Cleveland, then moved to Columbus 8 months ago. His social media showed photos from Pittsburgh and Rochester around the times I was supposedly stalking Vanessa there. Nathan called a strategy meeting. Carol Zimmerman, Leonard Shaw, a private investigator, former military intelligence, specialist in corporate espionage. Gentlemen, we might have found our culprit, Nathan said, pulling up Kevin Price's info. Carol, I need you to analyze those stalking photographs for professional techniques. If Kevin took them while posing as Mason, there might be technical signatures. Leonard, I need a deep dive on Kevin. Financials, past relationships, any history of obsessive behavior or fraud. And does he have the technical expertise to understand GPS monitoring systems? Carol started immediately. Within 2 days, she found something remarkable. The photos were taken with 3 different phones over 6 months, consistent with burner phones. But several showed specific composition, lighting adjustments, focus techniques, professional photography. More damning, 2 photos from Pittsburgh contained embedded GPS coordinates in the EXIF data, and those coordinates placed the photographer not at the location shown, but across the street, using a telephoto lens. This doesn't look like surveillance photos taken by a victim, Carol stated flatly. This looks like staged photography designed to create the appearance of stalking. Leonard Shaw's background investigation on Kevin Price revealed even more. 3 years earlier, Kevin had been engaged to a woman in Cleveland. She broke it off due to controlling, possessive behavior. She filed a police report alleging Kevin had stalked her, sent harassing messages. Charges dropped after a restraining order and counseling. This man has a documented history of stalking behavior, Leonard explained. And he's a professional photographer who understands how to manipulate images. He's been dating your ex-wife for 9 months, exactly when the stalking began. I think we're looking at a classic case of projection. Kevin is actually stalking Vanessa, or wants to isolate her, and he's framing you to make himself look like her protector. Nathan immediately filed an emergency motion to depose Kevin Price and subpoena his records. Marcus Ashford fought it hard, calling it a desperate attempt to deflect blame. But Judge Thornton granted limited discovery. Leonard Shaw, meanwhile, continued his discreet surveillance of Kevin. And what he found was chilling. Kevin was conducting counter-surveillance on Vanessa, following her to work, photographing her throughout the day, tracking her obsessively. Leonard had video evidence. Kevin sitting in his car outside Vanessa's office for hours, following her to the gym, watching her at restaurants. This man is stalking her, Leonard reported. She either doesn't realize it, thinking he's protective, or she's aware and hasn't acknowledged it. Either way, he's exhibiting classic stalking behavior, constant monitoring, obsessive documentation, isolation tactics. He's dangerous, and he's using these false allegations against you as cover for his own conduct. Nathan immediately contacted Marcus Ashford, requesting an urgent, confidential meeting with Vanessa. Marcus was dismissive at first, but when Nathan provided Leonard's video evidence, he agreed. The meeting happened at Marcus Ashford's office. Nathan was there in person. I joined via video link. My monitor again a silent witness. Vanessa looked different, thinner, anxious, her blonde hair shorter. She sat next to Marcus, defensive. Nathan methodically presented the evidence. Kevin's prior stalking conviction, the analysis of the photographs showing professional techniques and staged compositions, the metadata evidence, Leonard Shaw's surveillance video of Kevin following Vanessa obsessively, and financial records showing Kevin had purchased multiple burner phones during the time the threatening texts were sent. Miss Hartwell, Nathan said, his voice calm but firm, we believe Kevin Price has been stalking you while framing my client for that stalking. The evidence suggests he's been following you, photographing you, sending you threatening messages designed to make you afraid and dependent on him. He may have even hired someone who resembles Mason, or disguised himself, to appear at locations where you'd see them. Either way, Mason couldn't have done what you've accused him of. He's been under house arrest with GPS monitoring the entire time. Kevin, on the other hand, has traveled to all these cities, has the technical skills to stage these incidents, and has a documented history of stalking behavior. Vanessa's face went pale. That's not possible. Kevin's been supportive. He's been helping me document the stalking, encouraging me to report it, telling me I needed to protect myself. Nathan pulled up the threatening text messages on his laptop. Do these messages sound like something Mason would write? You were married to him for 6 years. Does this sound like his communication conversation style, his word choice, his phrasing. Vanessa read them, her hands shaking. "No," she whispered. "These don't sound like Mason. They're more possessive, more obsessive." Mason was a lot of things, but he was never possessive or controlling. Nathan nodded. Our expert, Carol Zimmerman, analyzed the linguistic patterns. They match Kevin's writing style, not Mason's. "We believe Kevin sent these messages to you, made you afraid, then positioned himself as your protector while framing Mason as the threat." Vanessa looked sick. "Why would he do that? What does he gain from making me think Mason was stalking me?" Leonard Shaw spoke up. "Control and isolation, Miss Hartwell. Classic domestic abuser tactics. Make you afraid of an external threat. Position himself as your only source of safety. Cut you off from other relationships. Make you dependent on him. Then, once you're isolated, the abuse escalates." Has Kevin been encouraging you to cut ties with friends or family? Suggesting you move in, monitoring your phone, or asking for passwords? Vanessa's expression confirmed everything. He installed a tracking app on my phone 6 months ago so he could monitor my location and make sure I was safe. He's been suggesting I move in with him so he could protect me better. He said my friends don't take the stalking seriously. I thought he was being caring. I thought he was trying to help. Marcus Ashford, who had been listening in horrified silence, leaned forward. "Vanessa, when you first told me Mason was stalking you, who suggested it was him? Did you recognize him in those photographs, or did Kevin tell you it was him?" Vanessa's eyes filled with tears. "Kevin identified him. I saw someone who looked similar, but the photos were blurry. I wasn't certain. Kevin was the one who said it was definitely Mason, who said we needed to document everything, who encouraged me to hire you and file the lawsuit. He said Mason was dangerous." The pieces clicked into place with horrifying clarity. Kevin had orchestrated the entire scheme, stalking Vanessa himself, framing me, using his photography skills to stage images, sending threatening messages to increase her fear, positioning himself as her protector, isolating her, encouraging her to file a massive lawsuit against me that would destroy me financially and send me back to prison. Nathan pulled up another document, Kevin Price's financial records. Over $90,000 in credit card debt and unpaid business loans. If Vanessa won the $340,000, Kevin would have access to it. His motivation, Nathan concluded, was partly control over Vanessa, partly financial gain, and partly revenge against Mason for being Vanessa's ex-husband. He wanted to destroy Mason while making himself look like a hero. Vanessa was openly weeping. "I believed him. I trusted him." Marcus Ashford immediately said, "Miss Hartwell, we need to involve law enforcement. If Mr. Greenberg's evidence is accurate, Kevin Price has committed multiple crimes, and you may be in danger." Nathan nodded. "I've already contacted Detective James Kowalski with the Columbus Police Fraud Division. He's reviewed our evidence and agreed to open an investigation. But Vanessa, we need your cooperation." The meeting ended with Vanessa agreeing to fully cooperate. Marcus promised to withdraw the lawsuit. Nathan scheduled a meeting with the detective. Detective Kowalski's investigation moved swiftly. Vanessa's phone showed Kevin had monitored her location obsessively. Her call records showed Kevin frequently called her during her stalking scares. Kevin had purchased 8 burner phones. Surveillance footage from stores in Cleveland, Pittsburgh, and Rochester showed Kevin himself buying items on the exact dates I was supposedly stalking Vanessa in those cities. The most damning evidence came from Carol Zimmerman. She got the original image files from Vanessa's phone. The metadata showed they were taken with Kevin's professional camera equipment, then deliberately degraded and transferred to burner phones to make them look like quick snaps. Kevin had literally been photographing someone who resembled me, possibly hiring an actor or model who matched my general appearance, then sending those staged photos to Vanessa, claiming he'd caught her stalker. Leonard Shaw identified the man in the photos, Troy Dennison, an aspiring actor who had modeled for Kevin. Troy admitted Kevin had hired him, claiming it was for a photography project on urban surveillance. He had no idea. Kevin Price was arrested at his apartment on a Thursday morning. Stalking, criminal harassment, fraud, conspiracy. It made local news. The man who was helping his girlfriend fight a stalker was the stalker, framing her ex-husband who was under house arrest. Vanessa issued a public statement, apologizing to me, explaining she'd been manipulated. Marcus withdrew the lawsuit with prejudice and had all records sealed. Judge Thornton granted it, praising Nathan's investigation, emphasizing the importance of examining evidence before rushing to judgment. Nathan negotiated a settlement. Vanessa paid my legal fees, around $43,000, and provided a written apology acknowledging the false accusations. It wasn't the $340,000 she'd sought from me, but it covered my costs and felt like a measure of justice. Officer Rita Blackwell called me the day after Kevin's arrest, her voice surprisingly warm. "Mason, I owe you an apology. When those allegations surfaced, part of me wondered if you'd somehow circumvented the system. I should have trusted the data more. You've been a model probationer, and you deserved better." I looked down at the ankle monitor that had saved me. "Rita, the data proved I was innocent. Without this device, I wouldn't have had an alibi." Kevin was counting on people doubting its reliability, but the system worked exactly as designed. It kept me confined, but it also kept me free. 3 weeks later, Kevin Price pleaded guilty to multiple charges. 4 years in state prison, mandatory counseling, a permanent restraining order for Vanessa. Troy Dennison wasn't charged. Vanessa moved, got therapy, started rebuilding. 3 months after Kevin's conviction, she sent me a handwritten letter, a heartfelt apology. "I know I hurt you badly," she wrote. "I should have questioned things more carefully. I should have remembered you were never controlling or violent. I let fear cloud my judgment." I read it several times. There was anger. Yes, she'd believed I was capable, nearly destroyed me, but also understanding. Kevin had manipulated her expertly, using her legitimate fears. I wrote back, accepting her apology. I didn't say I forgave her completely, because I wasn't sure that was true yet. But I said I understood. That felt more honest. My house arrest ended 4 months later, right on schedule. No extensions, no complications. Officer Blackwell removed the ankle monitor at 9 a.m. on a Thursday. That sudden absence of weight around my ankle felt profoundly strange, like a phantom limb. A constant presence, gone. "You're free, Mason," Rita said, handing me the official documents. "You served your time with perfect compliance, despite facing false accusations that could have derailed everything. That takes integrity. I hope the rest of your life goes smoother." I walked outside my apartment building for the first time in 13 months without that device. Stood in the June sunshine. Overwhelming relief, but a lingering anxiety. Freedom felt precarious, something that could be taken away again. But it was real. I was truly free. Nathan called that afternoon. "Kevin Price is serving his sentence. Vanessa is doing well. Your criminal record for tax evasion remains, but the stalking allegations are sealed. You've got a clean slate moving forward." I thanked him profusely. "You saved my life, Nathan. Without your work, I'd be in prison for something I didn't commit." Nathan's voice was quiet. "The GPS data proved your innocence, Mason. The monitoring system that restricted your freedom for a year ultimately saved you from much worse. That's the irony of surveillance. It can be oppressive and protective simultaneously. In your case, being watched constantly was exactly what you needed." 6 months after my release, I ran into Vanessa at a grocery store. The first time I'd seen her in person in 3 years. We froze in the produce section. Then she approached, carefully. "Mason, hi. How are you doing?" I was holding a bag of apples, feeling awkward. "I'm okay. Working, rebuilding, moving forward." "You?" She looked healthier, less anxious. "I'm good. Better. Therapy is helping." I wanted to say again how sorry I am for everything Kevin put you through by manipulating me. I think about it constantly, how badly that could have gone. I nodded. "I'm glad you're safe now. That's what matters." We talked for a few more minutes, an awkward dance between two people whose lives had been violently entangled and then separated by trauma. She was seeing someone new, a kind teacher. I was focusing on work. We said goodbye, wished each other well, and went our separate ways. It felt like closure. Finally, the whole experience taught me things I wished I hadn't needed to learn. That evidence matters more than assumptions. That surveillance can be both prison and salvation. That trust is fragile and easily manipulated by malicious intent. That the truth eventually surfaces, but sometimes nearly too late. I still think about that ankle monitor sometimes, the 397 days I wore it. How it restricted every aspect of my freedom while simultaneously proving my innocence of crimes I couldn't have committed. Kevin Price built his entire scheme around the assumption that people would doubt the reliability of GPS monitoring, that they'd believe photographs and witness testimony over electronic data, that where there's accusation, there must be some truth. He was wrong. Barely. The monitoring data had been ironclad, unimpeachable. The one piece of evidence that couldn't be manipulated or reinterpreted. It showed exactly where I'd been every moment of every day for 13 months. And that data had been my salvation. Now, I live in a different apartment, work for a different firm, slowly rebuilding relationships. I even carry copies of my GPS monitoring reports in my car, in a folder labeled Alibi. lie, just in case. Just in case reality bends again, and I need proof that I was exactly where I said I was. Because the truth needs evidence to survive. And I learned the hard way that your word means nothing without data to back it up. Kevin Price is eligible for parole in 18 months. A part of me worries about what he might do when he's released. But Vanessa has a restraining order, security systems, and a support network. She's learned to recognize the warning signs of controlling behavior. She'll be okay. I'll be okay. We both survived someone who tried to destroy us by weaponizing the justice system, by creating false narratives that seemed plausible until someone looked closely enough to find the cracks. That absurd, terrifying, nearly successful lie that almost sent me back to prison is over. Sealed by court order, mentioned only in private conversations or therapy sessions where I processed the trauma. But I survived it. The monitoring data proved my innocence. The truth came out. Justice, delayed and imperfect, but real, arrived. And now I'm free. Truly free. At least, until the next impossible thing happens. But I'll be ready. With evidence. With data. With proof of exactly where I was and what I did. Because that's what survival looks like now. Documentation. Evidence. The paper trail that shows truth when words aren't enough. Have you ever faced an accusation so outrageous, so impossible, that it made you question your own sanity? Or perhaps been caught in a situation where technology, meant to restrict, actually ended up saving you? Tell me what you think in the comments below. I really want to know your stories.